got off of Shark Tank, sold the company Wind Pouch, and I had a little bit of money, and I was thinking, well, the problem that I experienced in Wind Pouch was that I was working 16 hours a day, and granted, I really didn't know how to manage my time. I was just getting burnt out, just trying to hustle, but did really well. Don't regret any of it, but I just wanted, before that, I was just selling products to products. I was importing them from China. I could speak fluent Mandarin, so I was importing really any product that I could buy from Alibaba.com and selling them on Amazon.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hustle Up podcast. My name is Clint.
I'm Jonathan.
And today we have the pleasure of sitting down with Mr. George Yu. He's renowned, very popular in Atlanta. Got to come up, UGA grad, if I'm right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
UGA.
A little past priors, you won a Shark Tank. You got picked up by Mark Cuban for Wind Pouch.
That's right.
That was big. Yeah, not Jesus, turning water into wine, but you turned almonds into milk, right?
Well, that company actually didn't go on Shark Tank. We went on Shark Tank with Wind Pouch, and then after that, we had a product called the Nutley, and it basically was a plant milk processor that you can add any sort of grains, nuts, oats, rice, and add water, and it would cold filter, cold press, and into fresh nut or plant milk in like 60 seconds. So
making miracles.
What's that called?
Say that again.
What's that one called?
It's called Nutley.
Oh, nice.
Let's go.
Cool.
All right. And these days, you're spending a lot of your time. You're in Austin, right? Primarily?
That's a funny story. So yeah, I was born and raised here in Atlanta, and I wanted to get out. So I've been, so I actually bought a Sprinter conversion van. So I joined van life about 6 months ago.
I've seen it. It's sick.
Thank you.
Pimped it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I bought it 80% done. I did like another 20% of work to it, just kind of like custom stuff that I wanted added. And I brought that out to Austin. And the goal was to just kind of make that a second home base. And then if it ever became a primary home base, then it'd be cool too. But so I have that.
So you're primarily doing real estate here though, right?
Yeah. So my company's here in Georgia, and we have about 8 developments right now in the Georgia, Alabama area.
And these aren't small jobs. These are big jobs. They're multifamily. They're pretty large.
Yeah. So our average size was 80 units about a year and a half ago. Now, we're not building anything smaller than around 205 to 224 units.
And how many projects do you have going at one time?
Right now, 8.
Let's go.
Yep.
And so I've been out to Austin a lot over the last couple of years, and Austin's real estate market's popping off. Have you had any thoughts about getting involved out there? Is Texas law any different?
I didn't actually move to Austin for real estate. I just moved there for my own personal life.
The vibes are
just trying to get out. I was born here in Atlanta, like I said, and before I get married and have kids, I wanted to experience moving to a different city. I also live part-time in Mexico, a little bit of my time in Europe, so I'm kind of just everywhere a little bit right now. And Austin is sort of my second U.S. home base, but my international home bases are Tulum, Mexico, where I have a house, and then also in Europe.
So and we have so many topics to cover. I'm excited to dive in. I noticed I've been following your stories, and it looks like you may have just sold a property in Tulum. What's the history around that? How'd you get involved in that?
So I went to Tulum for the first time about 2 years ago during the pandemic, and I was invited by my friend Austin Distel. I don't know if you know him, but
Austin Distel?
Yeah, he was in Vima.
He's got Jarvis.
Yeah. So he's in Austin.
Right.
So he actually told me to go to Austin 5 years ago, but I was kind of tied down with my life, just everything going on. And now I'm moving out to Austin. He was single then, I'm single now. And then, and now he's getting married. So like 5 years late, now I'm going out there. Can't even meet up with him because he's so busy doing the engagement stuff and being newly engaged.
I got engaged in Tulum. So
whoa, super cool. Wow. When was this?
That was back in July of last year.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Wow.
Wedding in February.
Also in Mexico or?
No, it'll be here.
Okay.
West Midtown area.
Nice. Yeah. What did you do it at? Where in Tulum?
It was at the Ven a la Luz sculpture. This is big. It's like the Earth goddess sculpture. Very, very solid for pictures. Also solid for me. And we had a bunch of our friends there. Jonathan was there.
It's awesome.
Is that on the hotel zone?
No, it was in downtown Tulum.
Oh, gotcha. And also in Throw.
It's got like the big hands. I don't know.
You might have seen it. It
Might have
was
seen
it was
it.
an art sculpture downtown that we thought had significance to us and also looked good for pictures.
Nice.
So,
Well, dude, congrats. That's awesome.
thanks,
man, I
man.
wish I
Yeah.
was there for that. Like, I mean,
That's
I
cool.
probably was if it was in
you might
July,
have been
I was there.
around. Yeah.
I was definitely there because that's like summer is like slow season because
We
it's hot
noticed.
season.
It's hot season.
Super
and
hot.
when we were there, it looked like it was seaweed season. So we actually spent a lot of less time at the beach.
Yeah.
And we went to what's the not the ruins. Not
Chichen Itza?
Chichen Itza.
Chichen Itza, yeah.
And that was one of the coolest travel experiences I've ever had.
Have you been
that
to
was awesome.
Mexico City?
Only on a tour from a cruise. We went into Mexico City for the day and it was very brief.
Yeah. They have Teotihuacan there, which is like the whole Mayan city. And
Yeah.
it's like Chichen Itza, but like 10 of them. And like
Sheesh.
the biggest pyramids there are like 5 or 6 times as large as Chichen Itza. And there's like 2 of them.
It's crazy humbling.
It's huge. It's a whole city. And the way they found it was the government was creating like a railroad track through Mexico, just like a railway in like 70s or 80s. And they were putting sticks of dynamite in these like big mounds of dirt and they've stuck it in. They were like, hey, something's under here. It's not like dirt. And they started excavating. It turned out to be like like 10,000,
That's insane.
just, I don't know, just like huge place of, it was basically a huge preserved city that was just
Yeah.
covered up by dirt and like overgrowth.
and wild how that happens too, right? Like, I don't know if it's the jungle taking over or just time taking its toll, but you've got whole, pyramids that have just been covered up, waiting to be uncovered.
Yeah, there's a lot of them in South America too. Like Christopher Columbus actually said that he, on his first journey through South America, he came back and reported that he had seen all these civilizations, but when they went back, they never found them. Well, what happened was they brought all the diseases and stuff and
Germs.
killed them all. And like, it took them about 100 or so years to come back out. And by the time like all that overgrowth, and now they're
It
just
takes
now
2 years for the jungle to take over.
Right,
If that,
exactly.
right.
Right, exactly. But now they're coming back because they're clearing the land for cattle, because cattle's beef is a big export product from South America. So they're now finding these lost cities.
We've
Wow.
got technology like LiDAR, right?
Yeah,
Able
LiDAR.
to find some extra stuff as well.
Pretty interesting stuff, but yeah,
So Tulum and Austin, right?
Austin.
So you're out there primarily now, flying. Well, it sounds like you're international. Here, Mexico, Atlanta. How do you divvy up your time? Because from the conversations we've had, it seems to be more about freedom and enjoyment than it does necessarily about money. I know that's got to be a factor. Would you say that's accurate? How are you doing it?
Well, right now I'm still in the figure it out phase. So there is a bit of a juggle. There are,
Experimental.
It's much, very much experimentals, but so I spent about 2 weeks here in Georgia, and I split my time between Atlanta and Tallahassee. So my corporate office is in Cairo, Georgia, which is 30 minutes across the Florida border on the Georgia side. So I fly into Tallahassee commercial. I hop in my airplane. I fly to Cairo, and then
You got a pilot's license?
I do.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. So yeah, I fly over to Cairo, and then from Cairo, I meet with my partners and hang out. We have some meetings, and then from there, I fly from Cairo to in my airplane to all of our different 6, 7, 8 different properties and check up on them, meet with our superintendents. Then I go to Atlanta. I still have a place up here in Atlanta, and I'll spend like the weekend, like I'm doing this weekend, like I did this past weekend. I'll spend a couple days up here and hang out with friends and catch up with my family. And then Wednesday, I fly my airplane back down to Cairo, meet with my partners, then go to Tallahassee, fly to Austin, and I'll be there for Austin City Limits this weekend.
Nice.
For the second weekend. Then after that, I will be in Austin. And then after that, I'm going to Scottsdale for a multifamily conference I was invited to, and I'll be there for 2-3 days.
What shout out? What
Say that?
conference?
It's the Multifamily Something Association. I'll have to give
Gotcha.
Are you
Yeah.
It's
speaking?
something-
You're a speaker?
No,
Oh.
So the guy that did our last Fannie Freddie loan for our apartment deal, he actually invited us to go. Me and all my partners, they couldn't go, so I'm going. But it's basically just a network event with all like developers, contractors. There's only like 40, 50 people there. It's not like a huge like event, but it's a weekend where they invite all of their clients that have done deals with them to kind of meet each other. They have like planned events, golf, restaurants, networking events, stuff like that.
Well, those tighter circles also can bring tighter relationships as well.
Yeah.
So that's cool, man. What would you say your involvement in these deals are? You said you have partners, you're flying in, you're hopping around. Like, how much day to day does it require, and what do you do?
Well, my role now has changed quite significantly. So just to give your audience a background. So I started this company with my two partners about 5 years ago. So at that time, I had just got off of Shark Tank, sold the company Wind Pouch, and I had a little bit of money. And I was thinking, well, the problem that I experienced in Wind Pouch was that I was working 16 hours a day. And granted, I really didn't know how to manage my time. I was just getting burnt out, just trying to hustle. But did really well. Don't regret any of it. But I just wanted, before that, I was just selling products to products to products. I was importing them from China. I could speak fluent Mandarin. So I was importing really any product that I could buy from Alibaba.com and selling them on Amazon.
And your background is Taiwanese, American?
Yeah, my parents are from Taiwan.
Yep.
And I was born here in Macon, Georgia.
And you speak Mandarin. Do you speak anything else?
Mandarin, English, and Spanish.
Let's go. Cool.
Yep. So basically I learned through Vima, a couple guys in Vima, how to learn about Alibaba. And they were like, hey, since you speak fluent Mandarin, why don't you just start importing all this stuff for us? And I started doing that, and I got into that over the next few years.
Nice.
Fast forward, went on Shark Tank, sold the company. And then I was like, well, I don't want to, basically my track record was find a product, sell it for 6 months. The whole market would catch up. It would basically drop the price. Everybody was competing for the bottom price to the ground. And so I was like, well, I don't want to keep doing that because it's super stressful, and I just I didn't really feel like I could really get good at something. I was always changing products. So I was like, well, what is one thing that I can keep working on for the next 50 years that was important 100 years ago that still will be important 100 years after I'm gone, that will also give me passive income? Because I wanted to wake up anywhere in the world and still get a check. Because I started looking around and I started realizing everybody that I would drive by, all the 40 countries that I visited, people just, it's amazing. From the beginning of human time, everyone's been worried about money or value. But since the dawn of recorded human history, humans, we haven't really gotten that great at obtaining wealth at all. Yeah. It's you would think we've been working at this and slaving and dying over generations on how to obtain this wealth and, get ahead, besides the, organizations like, Jewish people and stuff like that, that have learned multi-generational wealth, passing it down from family to family. But most other people have not really learned it, including my family. So I was like, well, if 99% of the people are waking up every day just to try to make a paycheck and just in this rat race, I was like, well, why don't I just figure out how to really make money and then get that out the way so that I can worry about other things like health, happiness, love, traveling, explorations, things like that I'm curious about.
Did you feel like you had to sacrifice a lot of those health, happiness, love things
Absolutely.
In the way to find your way to making wealth?
Absolutely. There probably wasn't be anything that I would not have done in my first 25 years of life.
Just had to have it.
Just to have money. So I do have to be careful when I say, I do catch myself saying hey, money is not that important. But I'm like, well, you can't really say that now because, you are in a position where money does not matter as much. But there was a period of time where that was all that mattered.
Right.
So I'm very more cautious about that now to say it does matter. It matters to a point where I think everyone in the world should figure out how to get rid of that fast. Get rid of that problem. You don't need $1 million. You don't need $1 billion. You just need to have 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever that freedom number for you is, taken care of by some sort of asset that just keeps producing for you so that you have extra time to just, Jeff Bezos calls it, puttering in the morning. You wake up, you pick up a newspaper, you don't really feel rushed, and you just, some of my best ideas now growing my company, which we'll get into that, is comes from that. When I'm traveling, I'll see an idea somewhere and I'm like, oh, we need to implement this into our company. And I'm able to do these things that my partners can't do. So my partners are both about 10 to 15 years older than me. So I'm always the youngest partner. I'm in two business partnerships right now where I'm the second and third partner, and I'm always the youngest. So I'm always partnering with people older than me, and I'm working with people my age, and then I'm kind of giving back to people that are younger than me.
You got your own rule of 33.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
something like that. But I just these people, my partners are super smart, super hardworking. They got their own businesses and whatnot, and I just had to find what I had to bring to the table. But to answer your question on the real estate, my role now has changed, but currently what I do today is I find capital.
Right.
So I bring investors to the table. When I first met my current partners, they were building just 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 300 square foot apartments, just super basic. So I started thinking about all right, well, what's sort of the future of what we're doing? Are we just building 1 bedroom apartments, or are we trying to solve an actual problem?
Innovate or die.
Innovate or die. And so I started, in my travels around the world, I started realizing we're completely wasteful here in the United States, very wasteful. in construction wise, we do central heating and air. In other
Right.
countries, it's all mini splits, right? You don't need the ductwork. Central heating, air, those AC units are highly inefficient. And we have a 1-bedroom apartment that's 1,000 square foot. Well, you might want 1,000 square foot, but you don't really need 1,000 square foot for a 1-bedroom.
And you're building here in Georgia. Picking up where we left off, you had 1,000 square feet of space, and you're building primarily here in Georgia. I know you have a property in Dublin. Do you have one in McDonough that you're building up?
Right now we are in Cairo, Georgia, Moultrie, Georgia, Thomasville, Georgia, Warner Robins, Georgia, Dublin, Georgia,
Right.
Americus, Georgia, Bainbridge, Georgia, 2 of them in Bainbridge, Georgia, another one in Waycross, Georgia, and another one in Kingsland, Georgia, and one in Dothan, Alabama.
Love it.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in Warner Robins about 6 months ago, and I remember thinking, hey, this would be an excellent real estate opportunity because of the Air Force. There's so much going on because of the base. There's always going to be an opportunity to rent something. It's really cool. I'm curious though, when you're building in properties or areas like this, they're a little bit different than, let's say, New York, where they really are cramming in, hey, 400 square foot apartment, 500 square foot apartment. Are you building, trying to keep true to like a New York or an LA or something a little bit more cramped, not cramped, efficient? Or are you building these 1,000 square foot apartments?
Well, to answer your question, I'll answer it in this way. It's about the ecosystem, right? Because everyone has to win. The city has to win, the bank has to win, the investor has to win, and then the tenant can win.
Right.
I wish the world worked backwards to where, hey, we should just all help people that need it, and everybody just come together and help. But
if it didn't make money, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, I've been in city meetings. I won't name which city, but a lot of cities where they'll have the whole city meeting where the public will come. They'll be like, oh yeah, we're for affordable housing. We're gonna do something about it. Then like I'm in the back room with the city manager with my partner, and they're like, no, you just can't do that here,
right,
because that's next to Commissioner John's house, and we
right,
just can't have not in my backyard kind of stuff. And so for the longest time, it was like we had to realize, like, okay, just saying that, hey, we want to solve your affordability problem doesn't work, because they don't really give a crap about people, like, for the most part. I hate to say it that way, but that's what I've sort of found out. But if you tell them like, hey, this will be a feather in your cap as a city official, meaning you'll get reelected, this will look good for you, or tell an investor, hey, this is a good return on your money, that's where the project actually comes and becomes a project. So it's knowing how to like speak to different people, but in order to get that price of what we want to be at, which is typically 30 to 40% below market rate,
okay,
we have to build smaller. Something's got to give.
Is this affordable housing in the sense that it's state sponsored, or is it affordable housing in the sense that people who live here and work a normal job in the territory could afford to live here?
That's a good question. It's not affordable housing. We don't take any government grants. We don't take any low-income housing tax
Section
credits.
8.
No Section 8. Okay. None of that. We just build market rate. We just build inexpensive market rate, or market rate that's 30 to 40% lower than market rate. So we actually don't say affordable housing anymore, because city officials don't like that now, because that sounds like prostitutes and drug dealers and all that stuff. And
I live next to affordable housing. I get it. Now here comes a better question. I work in construction. I know what materials prices are like. How are you doing it without skipping steps? Not to grill you. How are you building at an affordable rate without skipping steps?
Well,
sacrificing quality.
That's a good question. So it starts from the beginning. It all comes from the design from the beginning. So
I did listen to the 4 Media podcast, so I think I know the answer.
Well, I'll try to go into depth, like a little bit more than that for anybody who has heard it. But so basically, it's like, why is Elon Musk good at what he does? Is because he breaks an industry down, see where it's lacking, and see all the fat and cuts out the fat. Every industry has that, and real estate's no different. So the reason that we have shitty product coming out of the market right now is because the people that design the product don't build the product. The people that build the product don't keep the product, and the people who keep the product, don't manage the product.
Don't use the product. Don't live in the product.
Yeah. So there's no life cycle to the product. That, like, from beginning to end, there's like 8 different companies, right? SpaceX did it to where it's all one company, right? Reusable everything. And that's what I started realizing was everywhere. It's like, okay, so the developer, puts the project together. Then he hires a general contractor to do it. Well, the general contractor is on a budget, right? And he's not going to do it any more expensive, then he has to, because
he wants to get his margins.
He has to get his margins.
Job.
And, towards the end of a project, if costs start going up, quality starts going down, and that's the problem, is that when those two are not aligned, you start having, and that's why no one wants to build energy efficient, because that's extra money. But it's not, but if you design it, if you're the person that designs it and manages it to the end and sells it, like it's all yours in one swoop, then you're going to put more time, effort, and energy into it. So what we did is we went from the beginning, we started really getting into the details of our plans, our building footprints, our efficiencies. How do we build? What materials do we use? What kind of insulation do we use? What kind of windows do we use? What kind of shading do we use? What kind of, we tested passive house systems. We tested out net zero systems. And, one of the things that we do for our apartments is that we include all utilities. So that was something that they started back in the day. And I really loved that idea because it just made sense to me. I think in the future, the average person is going to need help. I think in the future, there's going to be a bundle of products out that are going to be called, I don't really know if there's, this is what I call it. I call it lifestyle bundling. I think in the future, the average person will not be able to get by in their life without bundling their life. It's more of like an advanced social security services for people. So like, okay, George, I'll bundle my life with you, and in exchange, you provide me housing, utilities, transportation, nutrition, food, healthcare. So right now we're bundling, basically if you rent from our apartments, you get unlimited electricity, high-speed fiber internet, water, gas, trash, sewer, everything. In one of our projects, we are testing a dental plan. So if you sign a 12-month lease and by your 7th month, you're paid in full with no delinquencies or anything like that, you get access to one free dental cleaning on us. And then after that, you get 25% discounts on crowns, cavities, extractions, anything like that you need. So dental discounts with a local partner that we made in a local dentist office. So we're just trying to become the Google of housing, really, of Social Security, really, because, we're entering a stage where, especially for America, how do I say this in a nice way?
You don't have to.
We're not really used to suffering, and we think that we're suffering.
We haven't been for a couple generations at least.
Definitely, my generation, especially that has grown up here, and I wouldn't have known this if I haven't traveled all over the world, because most people we're still one of the only countries that you can just run hot water forever as long as you want, and there'll be hot water. In Mexico, at my house in Tulum, it's a nice place. I mean, you go there, you can drop $10,000 at a table, but my water cuts off from 3 to 9 o'clock or 3 to 10 p.m. every day. Like the water service isn't on 24/7. So we live in a very excess, abundant lifestyle that is just not feasible. And I think that the rest of the world, when things crash, they're going to be ready because it's just normal life for them. But for us, it's going to be very tough. So bundling all this together is actually a service that we want to do. So, getting down into the basics of the building, creating it energy efficiently, making sure that, okay, if we're spending $100 per unit of electricity per month because in our old design building, well, how can we reduce that by 50%, right? How do we, do we increase the insulation? Do we break the thermal bridging? Do we add passive shading over the windows so when the sun's higher over the south, it'll provide passive shading through the windows? Do we get low E-glass windows? So it all goes down to the planning. And if your developer doesn't care because you're going to sell it 6 months into building it, not even done, you're not going to care what windows or passive, any of this stuff.
Are you selling it shortly after it's developed?
We've had to sell 2 because we were cash strapped. Sure. Not that we wanted to, but our goal has never been to sell.
Well, and part of my question, another question was going to be, when you're figuring this out, like nail it, then scale it. I was thinking, dude, did he figure this out round 1 and then go build 8 more properties? Or how many iterations have you had?
No. When I actually started this, I didn't know anything about construction.
Sure.
I lived on site. I bought a camper for $15,000. I lived on site at one of our, literally sun up to sundown for 14 months, and just did everything. Talked to all the framers, talked to all the site work guys, graders, stormwater, just everything. Talked to the city officials. I was just on site. I just told my partners, hey, you guys can't do this. You guys have wife and kids. I'll do it because I think it's worth it. Because the way my mind works is once I go through a process from beginning to end, then I'll be able to be all right, we can remove this process. We can double down on this, and I can just start dissecting it and making it super efficient.
That was a major milestone for Hustle Up. We've never tapped out a micro SD card before, so that is a first. George, you were telling us about your development. You're telling us about bundling. You want to become the Google of real estate investment, or how did you word that?
My phrase for it will be called lifestyle bundling. Something along that line. I'll probably perfect it, but that's probably the easiest way to explain it.
And when you say that, I'm assuming that you're talking about like Google Workplace has offered so many conveniencies toward using it that you could run your whole business out of Google these days.
Yeah, it's the suite of products from Google.
You could bundle your whole life out of living in one of George's complexes.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think eventually one day, like, our apartments will be like one of the smaller things that we do. It's like right now it's like, okay, if you live with us, you get all these benefits. I think in the future it'll be like, hey, if you do this with us, you get to live with us as one of the benefits. Because
that's lit.
Yeah, I just think that number one is very cool. I think that would be something worth pursuing as a life goal. I think it's also very needed because as I travel around the world, it's just like, dude, the average person that, okay, is working 3 jobs, well, and he has a kid or 2 kids, and well, he's going to need daycare. He's going to need somebody to take care of him. There needs to be a path. And the goal is to give back some more time to the average individual so that they can spend more of that time and energy and money, that we save them by bundling all this together for them, that they don't have to individually go do all these things by themselves, to really invest it back into themselves, their family, hopefully their community. And I go back and forth in my mind to see if that's even feasible or will they even do that? Like if I get them back all this extra time, are they just going to sit back and watch Netflix and chill all day or are they actually going to go do something about it? But that's not my primary motive to do it. I'm still going to do it because it's a great need. It's a great investment. I think it's going to make people a lot of money. I think the people that are benefit from those products and services are going to benefit quite greatly. And I don't think it's something that people are thinking about, but I think I'm taking myself, for example, I would love that, right? Like when you go rent an Airbnb, you don't have to worry about turning on the lights or anything. Same thing with a hotel, right? You don't have to worry about any of that.
You don't have to get new Wi-Fi set up. It's all just, what are they? Plug and play?
Plug and play.
So for investors who might be listening or our friends who invest, what's a minimum investment? How much could they make back?
Well,
typically
we were at $250,000 for a minimum investment. That's probably gone up by now, but $250,000 investment depends on the size of the deal. So it depends on if it's an 80 unit or a 224 unit, because those are kind of 2 sizes right now. But typical return in the holding period in the construction phase, we give anywhere from about 10 to 12% on their return on their money. And then after we refinance, they get paid back all their money completely. And then they own, well, typically we raise 20% of the debt. So 80% is financed by Fannie, Freddie, or the bank, and we raise 20%. So if you have 20% of the deal, we give you 30% of the deal.
Rock on. And holding periods, 18 months, 2 years, 5 years?
Oh, the holding period before we sell?
Yeah.
We perform it out on a 5 year, but we don't really have plans to sell at 5 years. So we also tell the investors we'll perform it out so you can see your IRR, all that stuff. But the goal is to hold this because it's an audience that you can remarket back to eventually. And on each one of our developments, we build 1,000 square foot, we call it a leasing office for the city, but really it's not. It's just 1,000 square foot flex building that does nothing really. We put laundry units in there, but eventually, we were going to have an on-site bodega where, you can just buy stuff out of it. It'd be like a local Dollar General, an on-site, just marketing back to our own community, stuff like that. So.
Like a hotel might have a workroom or a fitness gym, something like that. Do your buildings have anything similar?
We don't have a gym. We don't give them anything that they cannot afford. We have thought about, so all the towns that we go to have Anytime Fitnesses or Gold's
And this
Gym.
is about efficiency too.
Yeah, about efficiency. So we don't have any pools. We don't have any, we have green space. We have a gazebo. We have sidewalks, but that's about it. We don't really give you anything that you want. We give you what you need. And our target market is the person that just needs a safe, clean, new, efficient place to live where all their utilities are covered, including a dental plan. And this really helps put back into their pocket anywhere from, for example, in Dublin, Georgia, our 1 bedrooms rent all inclusive $950 a month.
Okay.
The one across the street that just built from us, they are a little bit larger. Ours is 500 square feet. Theirs 1-bedrooms are anywhere from 675 to 800 square feet. They are going for 12 to 1300. Nothing's included except for trash and sewer, and you still got to pay water,
Right.
electricity, internet.
So maybe 15, 16, 1700 when they're
Yeah,
done.
and that's in Dublin, Georgia, and wow, yeah. I mean, rent price is just ridiculous. So I mean, $950 compared to $1,500.
Right.
I mean, I'm hoping that that $600 is life changing for people, right? Like, what can you do with an extra $600 when that matters?
Fix your car when it breaks down.
That's a great point. Is it just me, or like when I'm driving down the highway now, I'm seeing a lot more cars that are just busted. Like people just don't have the extra time or money to fix them. I said this to my buddy the other day. I was like, do you see like just cars like kind of busted up still driving? Because I don't remember seeing all these busted cars driving. I don't know if it's just times are getting hard, or if it's just like the small signs that I'm seeing, that the cracks in the economy of like, hey, this guy just doesn't have an extra $800 just to go towards his car.
Right.
He just has to drive. If it's drivable, just drive it. But yeah, exactly to your point. Yeah, what could you do with an extra?
Maybe it's not
$600
just pay for an emergency when it pops up, or have the ability to handle that with comfort, or on the alternative side, save and think to invest. That $800 or $5,000 or $10,000, whatever it is you can put away, you start to put that away, and then you think, how can I turn this into a little bit more? How can I get my money working for me? And whether you have 100,000 or $1 million or 8,000 extra dollars, I heard you say it earlier. What is it? What's that number to get free?
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit extra. Then you start thinking differently.
Yeah. I think probably a little too much sometimes, but I think the world would be a better place. I think most of the problems that we're experiencing today is that people are just not content. People are not at that basic level of happiness however that's determined. And it's for different people in different countries, it's different, because Americans, I think we need a higher level of comfort to obtain sort of that happiness and contentment because of what we see around us. It's a little bit of keeping up with the Joneses. But if you go to Mexico, like I have a guy that helps, manage my property, clean my house and all that stuff. And him and his wife and kids live in a room the size of a closet, completely super happy, but they don't make really much of anything, but they're happy. So I think the world would be a better place if we got more people to the end goal of like a little bit of freedom, and a freedom to like explore themselves a little bit, explore their passions. And, imagine if you woke up today and you didn't have to do what you thought you had to do just to make ends meet. And you can actually do things that you were curious about or passionate about, or spend more time with your kids, or spend more time with your elderly parents that are getting old, instead of sticking them in a nursing home. A lot of the problems that I'm seeing today is that people are chasing this one thing that is so elusive, money, because really why they want the money is really for the time, right? The vacations, the trips away to go to Tulum, New Mexico, whatever, Europe trip. Well, that's just another word of saying like freedom and time, and money is the way to get that. But it's so elusive because the people who are doing it, they've bought into a sort of a message that society, our teachers, the government, whoever teaches us, and it's sort of a lie. It's like, hey, work your ass off now, retire at 60, and now that retirement age is moving up, and I just don't believe that. And I think a lot of people are aware of it, but I think a lot of people don't know what to do about it because they've been so caught up in the matrix. They've been so bought into this message for so much of their life that even if they wanted to at this point, they got a wife that depends on them, 2 kids that depends on them.
Right.
They can't go the other way.
You save all your money until you're 60, 65, 70. And then all of a sudden, not only is retirement age going up, but hospital bills are. Jonathan and I've talked about this before. And all of a sudden you waste every bit of your savings paying hospital bills until you die. And there is a fine line to this. Like, how do you make the most of your life and pursue fulfillment, contentment, happiness without slaving away, trading all of your time for dollars? And additionally, this is kind of a different question, but a lot of things you're saying remind me of the conversation around universal basic income. If people just had enough money to go pursue their passions or pursue their freedoms, or maybe take an art class or study music or whatever it is, and they didn't have to worry about that extra bit of work, then maybe they'd be happy. Maybe we'd have more people happy. At the same time, I mean, I don't think that's exactly what you're saying, though, is it?
No, not in a UBI point of view. I mean, I do see the argument for universal basic income. I do think that eventually that probably is the way we should go, because that takes care of sort of the money side, right? But money is just one part of it, right? Like, people still need to feel like, humans, we're a species, and we still need to feel the sense of community. We still need to feel the sense that we belong, that we are valuable, that we are needed. And just giving somebody $1,000 a month doesn't really solve that, right? You still need somebody that feels good about what they do, like takes pride in their work, takes pride in their job. Like a man needs to take pride in like what he does with his hands, what he creates, right? And you don't really get that by handing somebody $1,000 and say, hey, that kind of probably does a little bit less for the individual. I know probably for me it would, but the other side of it is like, we want people. That's why the choice matters. It's like, okay, now you have this $1,000. Okay, let's say it's the passive income, right? UBI solves the passive income problem of $1,000 a month. Let's say it's $1,000 a month. Well, let's say that takes care of your basic needs, and now you don't have to go slave at a McDonald's or whatever you want, like that you needed to do. Now you can just go online and take coding classes, stay on YouTube, do stuff. Like that is what I'm more excited about than the $1,000. But the $1,000 is, or $5,000 or whatever it is, that freedom number is what it is required to get that person to that level to say, hey, what do I do today? Do I take a coding class? I've always been interested in acting, teaching, whatever.
Right.
And now let me explore it because I have enough to pay my rent. I have enough to put food on the table for my 1-year-old. But if that's not the case, then it's just this cycle. So
I've never thought about it like this. I think if you just hand out free money, you are going to have a lot of laziness. You're going to have a lot of waste, right? I mean, I think we're seeing some of that now. What if you incentivized it? What if you incentivized not, hey, I'm giving you money so that you can take a coding class. Hey, if you take a coding class and you pass a certain criteria, we'll actually pay you for that.
I think there's abuse in every system. I think there's always going to be somebody out there who finds a way around it. I think that idea is great. I think that's better than handing out $1,000 just to anyone, everyone, just because you live and breathe and have a social security number.
Right.
But
it also doesn't solve the larger problem. It
just depends, like it's also our political system. I don't want to necessarily get in that, but it's like, okay, one political party might implement it, then the next one takes over after 4 or 8 years or whatever. And then they just, we see that with food stamps. We see that EBT. We see that with Social Security. There's a mishandling of it when we change hands from political parties. So the succession of how this program is also done over the next 50 years is also important. So I don't know what that looks like. To be honest, I'm not
for sure
not that deep in that, but
you do have some ideas on the future of this country. It looks, a lot of people, there's a lot of conversation right now that, hey, we're about to hit a recession. And I don't think there's as much conversation on, hey, it's already here, right? This is just the beginning stage of it, and it's going to get worse. What does this mean for not just the average American, and also people wanting to start a business, entrepreneurs, future entrepreneurs, existing entrepreneurs? What do you think about that?
Well, to answer your first question, what it's going to do for the average American? Well, I think we're already seeing it. Food prices, gas prices are increasing. Inflation is one of those things where it's sort of a silent killer. They call it a silent tax. I've seen it now on my credit cards. You don't really see it till the end of the month, and you don't know why, but you just can't ever save enough because you're spending it. That extra 30 cents for Starbucks and $1 here and $2 there, $5 there. It's amazing at the end of the month how much that adds up.
Right.
It's amazing. Compounded over months. It's just, it's amazing. So I don't know what the average person can do that's locked into a, W-2 job, besides be aware that it's happening and start looking at more ways to save money, to start investing into passive assets like real estate or something else, and start getting serious, listen to this podcast and get some ideas here. But I think for most people, they're probably not going to do anything about it, and they're just going to suffer along. And this has happened, actually, studying recorded history, it's happened quite a bit. And typically how empires fall is like, the peasants, which were the farmers, were the poorest ones. And as you devalue currency, they're the ones that get hit the hardest. And so they come with pitchforks, and they come in millions and droves, and they march up to the castle where the 1,000 rich people live, bombard the castle, kill all of them. And that's how empires are toppled and restarted. So I think something like that. United States has also been around for 200 and I think I studied one time like the average longevity of an empire since recorded history, since the Sumerians. I took the average of like the 400 recorded empires, and it was like 325 years. I think United States were just about to hit our 250 or 60th birthday, something like that. So, and we're a democracy, and we're already seeing the cracks of what a democracy can do and what it cannot do.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that answered your question, but
do you think that farmers are coming with pitchforks, or because the landscape has changed, technology's changed things a little bit, but you can see, I mean, you look out in Portland.
It's not necessarily farmers. Farmers were in history they were
Sure.
they were the low income, the poor.
Those who may have felt left out by the system,
Yes.
left behind by
It could be our
capitalism,
youth.
right?
Like we saw it during COVID. We had all these like huge protests and movements. I mean, all the looting, all the craziness that we had. I mean, it could come from there. I mean, they're not farmers per se, but they're the average
Right.
individual that just know in their mind that they deserve more, they want more, all they desire is for more, and they don't care if they have to rob, steal, cheat, kill to have it. And I think we're in that environment today, sadly, and I don't really know what to do about it, but to provide sort of a cushion, because it's a big problem.
Well, you've got land, which I know you said earlier, it's not just about wealth, like what kind of assets are going to keep generating and even pass down to the next generation, right? You've got land. You are somewhat, I mean, you're doing the nomad life in the van. I want to dig into that a little bit too. You're probably going to be fine or okay in the midst of a collapse. And you've set it up that way, right?
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah, you hope. And look, I know there's financing out there and there's lots of things, but you're probably gonna make it. If you are a couple steps below you, a few steps below you, what could you do right now to start setting up safety and security, maybe during a potential collapse or during a financial recession, maybe a strong recession? What is it? Land? Is it ammo? Is it? I don't want to go like super alt-right, right? But do you want to move out of the country to somewhere safer? It's probably going to hit the whole world, right?
Yeah, well, I think there's different levels of it. Like I have thought about like a complete collapse, and I don't think I think that is highly more improbable than probable.
Zombies and aliens haven't hit us yet.
Yeah, yeah, or like a nuclear war or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think something that's more probable is like the environment that we live in. The American way of life is no longer sustainable for the people that want it, and I think there are going to be better options elsewhere. That's why I've invested quite a bit in Central America and stuff like that, because the average American can take their $5,000 a month and go, which is nothing here in the United States, but they can go to Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Guatemala, and dude, like
you were just in Poland too, right?
Oh my God,
right?
Poland, amazing place. I mean,
yeah.
It's so
you
cheap.
could live pretty
dude,
cheap over there.
Dude, yeah, like 2 weeks I was there.
Beautiful people, lots
Dude.
of health. Yeah.
It was amazing there, man. Like, thank you for bringing that up. Like, I came from London, super expensive. The Queen died. I was supposed to be there for an extra week, and I was like, the Queen died. My hotels just kept getting more expensive. It was like $80 a night, 150 for the same room, 250, 300, 400. I was like, all right, I gotta get the hell out of here. And I was like, oh, I can get a flight to Poland for $80 on Ryanair. I was like, all right, let's do it. Never been to Poland, so I went to Krakow, and $2,000. Like, no, not even 2,000. I was there for 10 days, and I spent, including the flight, like $1,100, $1,200, and I was like trying to spend money.
Flight, room, board, food,
Everything.
art, hotels, everything.
Drinks, nice dinners, all the Ubers you could ever want. Like Ubers, you remember when Ubers were like $3 when they first came out? Yeah, they're still $3 over there. They're just not over here.
No, it's
like
ridiculous
like
now.
$18, $20.
Yeah.
It's just like you just don't realize how much people don't realize how much we're spending here. But when you take your money elsewhere, like, okay, the fastest way to answer your question, all right, if you're a person making $60,000 a year, let's say, what's the average in America? Like $50,000?
Maybe 60, I don't know.
All right, let's say $60,000. And you're like, well, I want to live the $120,000 lifestyle. Take that to any one of those countries in Eastern Europe, Central America, South America, and boom, you're there, you're done. And then you just work remotely. Yeah, it must be a job where you work remote. And like that's what you do, and then you save up the money there, and then you can invest there, or you can invest in a real estate in the US, but live, keep your living expenses down by living in another country. That's the easiest thing that you can do. Of course, people are like, well, I don't want to live in another country, blah, blah. Well, then you're already screwed. You're like, if you're thinking about that mindset and you don't want to do what it takes to get out, then, whatever, the choice is yours.
Got to be willing to do what it takes. But then there's also the, I put this on a lot of wedding cards. We've been going to a lot of weddings this year. It's that time. And we always put down something like, hey, at the end of 5 years, at the end of 10 years, you're going to be the same person that you are today, except for the books you read, the people you meet, and the places you travel. And it's really, I mean, you can get some of that traveling with domestically, but really that international travel. And if you can, spending an extended amount of time there, figuring out what the culture is, who the people are, what makes them them, what makes them unique. And I think that is one of the coolest ways. Get out, see if you can get somewhere cheap, live there. If you can work a remote job and make more than whatever it takes to save, right?
Dude, yes, absolutely. And you'll realize things like, so I learned more about the US when I'm in other countries than I did when I was there. Because when I go to other countries, like when I went to Poland, like when I first got there the first few days, I was like, I don't know if I'm feeling this place. Just had a weird vibe. And then I started realizing I'm like trying to look at it as if it was like America. And then when I started looking at it, I was like, all right, this is a completely different country. Started learning more about the history, went to Auschwitz, did all this stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, this is actually a really cool place. I thought the people were cold at first, but they're not as open and friendly as Americans because they've been through some stuff and they want you to prove to them that you're a real, genuine, good person before they open up and warm up to you. And that can also happen a little bit quicker.
North America too, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And it can happen a little quicker over some alcohol. They love to drink over there. Right. So, but the people are super nice. You go over there, not everybody's on their phone in the metro. It feels like everything's slowed down, and it's a good contrast to the life here. And America is a great country. Like it's a great place to build wealth. To have a great life. Everybody in the United States wants to be here. My parents came here. I'm a third generation immigrant. So my great grandparents immigrated from northern Russia to China. Grandparents immigrated from China to Taiwan. My parents immigrated from Taiwan to the U.S. So all the three generations before me have been born in a country, died in another one, or going to die in another one.
You going to keep up the trend?
I think I am.
Where are you thinking about having kids?
When or where?
Where? I mean, you got the rest of your life to have kids. Yeah. It looks like.
I mean, I'll probably still have them in the U.S. or maybe Singapore, somewhere that they would get a good passport. Dubai.
Yeah.
U.S., Singapore, something like that, Switzerland, somewhere with a strong neutral passport that doesn't have too many enemies with other countries. I think that's important. But right now, I'm getting my second passport. I have multiple permanent residencies with Mexico, Nicaragua, Argentina. I'm working on my Portugal one. So I just want to be free, and I just want whatever happens in the future that I have options. I think that's the most important thing in my life is that there's been parts of my life where I haven't had options, and I'm sure all of us have been there. And it's just a terrible feeling. And getting a second passport is one of those things, like when you need it, you can't really get it because unless you have $1 million, $500,000 in cash that you can pay your way to do it. But these things take time. So I'm trying to think like all the things that will take time, like going back to the van thing, like I bought it for like a cool national park, like right around the US. But the second sort of use for that was like a bug out vehicle because it's completely off grid, solar, water catchment system, DC to DC charger from the alternator, 12 volt AC unit.
You're ready.
Runs. I'm ready.
Yeah.
And I'm not like one of those cuckoo guys that are like the end of the world or whatever, but I'm just seeing I'm seeing some crazy shit, in the world.
Rather have it and not need it.
Yeah. And here's another thing is like, I'm looking at all my friends, like people that I know, and everybody's just living this super kosher, awesome, like chill, like no worries kind of life. And I'm like, okay, like everyone seems to be going in this direction. And like whenever that happens, like from my entrepreneur mindset, you look at the other way and you just don't even, whatever the other way is, it doesn't really quite matter. But if everyone's going right, you should probably like highly look at like what's there on the left. Like why is nobody going this way?
Let's dig into that a little bit. Like, what do you think the next couple of years look like for somebody working in finance, accountants, insurance salesmen? These are considered normal, healthy, stable jobs. I don't really see that job going anywhere, downsizing heavily. Inflation kicks in and things cost a little bit more. What happens to America in that situation? Or Americans in that situation?
In specifically those sectors?
60, 70, 80 plus. Good, stable salary jobs, generally respectable jobs. Are they heavily affected? Or is it more, is it more builders? Is it more average? Is it the Waffle House waitress? Like who gets hit hardest here?
Definitely the lower you go, the harder you get hit.
Sure.
For sure. I think anybody above the 60, 70 in the finance sector is going to be okay because we're always going to need more accountants. Like that's the industry that runs all industries right there. But if you're in certain other fields like medical or tech, for example, I would probably be a little bit worried, because there are very strong, smart emerging countries, like in the Middle East, India, Asia, South America, Brazil, Colombia, that are coming up, and you can hire these guys that can do what Americans can do for like a fraction of the cost. And now this whole remote thing, everybody's like loving in the US, but the one downside is that like, okay, well, if they're letting Americans work remote, then they can also hire people that are already remote, like in other countries,
job,
and outsourcing their job. So, you own a company, I own a company. So, at the end of the day, what we're thinking about is efficiency. We're thinking about, all right, in Q4 of last year, we did this with 10 people. Can we do the same thing this year with, 9, 8? Do we need all 10 people? Do we need all 10 people full time? And, can we do more with less? Because it's an efficiency thing, right? Like slowly McDonald's has started to phase out cashiers and go to like kiosks. And it's efficient.
Shake Shack.
Shake Shack. Yeah. It's happening all around us at a very slow pace, and it's on purpose because they don't want to like
beta testing, A/B testing. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I think people at that bottom will get hit the hardest. If your job can be replaced by automation, robot, technology, anything like that, I think you should be worried. I think for the average American, you really do need to have some sort of side gig income that you could fall back on. I think there's never been a more important time in history for this country than now to have that, because the world's run on greed. The world is run on just somebody there to take your cake, when they have 100 cakes and they just don't care. They'll take your last cake. And, and it's a cutthroat world. But if you look at nature, right, if you follow like Nature's Metal and stuff
we don't
on Instagram,
we don't look back at
it's just bigger things eating smaller
programming,
things. All over. Do you see any? I mean, I don't really see too much compassion in the animal world.
Or even in history, right? Like he who wins the battle writes a history, and or wins the war. And we don't look back at Genghis Khan or Alexander the Great as evil dudes.
Yeah, right.
We look at them as victorious conquerors.
People.
Right? Tons.
Yeah, tons.
And yeah, maybe they united a nation, or they united an area. What they did was they won. They won a brutal war. And I don't think that nature has been bred out of us in the last 3,000-4,000 years.
It's been distracted out of us temporarily by football, by media, music, whatever, just good pizza, like all that stuff. I mean, I think in the absence of all that, we're going to return back to beasts because, since the dawn of humanity, we've just been slaughtering each other like pigs. I mean, the more you read history in the Bible, for example, I grew up Christian. My parents were very devout Christians, so we read the Bible quite a lot. And I mean, all through Kings and Judges and just Kings and this killed all these people, and it's just like
Cain killed his brother. Over,
exactly. Assassinated his brother
over some fruits.
So there's a lot of bloodshed throughout human history, and I think we have been experiencing since World War II one of the more peaceful periods of humanity, and I hope it stays that way. But we are starting to see that not to be the case. People are getting restless from social media, like fake news or whatever it is, and just creating that disparity between populations and people and religions and races. And I don't know where that's going to head, but I see it, and it doesn't look that great. But it's not all doom and gloom. There's also a lot of amazing good stuff happening.
For 100% sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But as a problem solver, I'm looking at these things and saying like, okay, these are the cards that are laid out before me. These things are all going great. Let somebody handle that. But these are all the problems that I see in front of me. Like, how can I take a stab at this? Because if I solve this problem, it'll be plenty of opportunity. It'll help people. I'll make a ton of money. I'll make my investors a ton of money. And this would be something that I can look at dedicating my life to.
That's epic, brother. We've got 11 or 12 minutes left, and I want to touch or make sure we touch base on everything you want to. Is there anything we haven't asked about or covered that you wanted to speak on?
All this was really what I wanted to speak on. So if you want to know more about I want
to know more about anything you have to say, bro.
Yeah.
I want to know about Mark Cuban. You met him?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. What's he like as a guy? What was it like going on Shark Tank?
Shark Tank was really fun. They give you $400 a day for like per diem. So they stick you they rent out a whole hotel in Hollywood, and it's like 200 companies that are all pitching over the next week or two. So it's like super cool. It's like college, but every single one of your dorm mates are like successful companies that are pitching. So that's pretty cool. That was honestly really the coolest part of Shark Tank. You know, the networking side.
Do you keep up with any of those people now?
Yeah, I do actually. About 5 or so companies.
How many of them made it? 5 or so?
Yeah, all of them in their own way. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you? I know you said you were working some ridiculous hours. How long did it take you to realize, hey, this is really awesome and I'm ready for the next thing?
Well, when I was burned out, and I didn't know I was burned out because I didn't know during a burnout, you don't really know you're in burnout until you like recover and go back to good health. So when I recovered, I was like, wow, I kind of want to stay this way. I don't ever want to work that hard again because, you know, sometimes I say like, oh, I'm a little bit lazy now, but it's good that I'm lazy because like there's certain things that I would normally have done in the past, but I figure out a system or process to implement that so I don't have to do it. So I actually get smart about it. So what I lack in physical like effort, I'm making up for it in sort of just thinking. And I like that better now because what that takes is processes, people, systems, right? You're helping people come from this point to this point. Like you're growing your team, you're growing your individual team members, you're placing process and systems in place where they feel fulfilled in their role, not just like they're just a cog in the system pressing buttons. And, you know, I want to feel alive. I want everybody to be on my team to feel alive. I want my friends and family to feel alive. You know, I think beautiful things happen when an individual feels alive. And part of doing these products and services that we're trying to do is that we're trying to give people an opportunity to get back to that point where they can, if they choose to, feel alive. Because I do think life is tough. I do think that, you know, there are ups and downs. And, you know, I've had a lot of friends direly commit suicide, you know, like, you know, stuff like that. And I just, I think as you get older, you start realizing, okay, life doesn't really get easier. It gets definitely tougher, but you yourself have to get tougher. And some people do, some people don't.
Well, and one question I'm just harping off of that. What is something you do every day? Obviously you live a life of adventure. You know, you're traveling across the world. You've got a bug out van. You've got, that's also a home. You've got a plane. You have a pilot's license. What are you doing every day to help you feel alive?
Oh, good question. I don't think it's like one thing, but I just wake up doing what I want to do. Like I don't want to make the impression that I don't do things that I don't want to do because sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
But I don't do that repetitively. Like if I do something, like before I start doing something, I'll think, can George see himself doing this 5 years from now? And if the answer is no, then I'm like, all right, well, who can I get to help me with this, or an assistant processes a person to do that? And that makes me happy because it almost goes back to like a video game where you're like leveling up as a character. And I do enjoy that because I do like being able to do more with less. And the people that I come across, the people that work with me and that I work with them, it's a super cool, like the whole thing is nice. Like my partners are awesome. Like we get along great. Like, you know, for us, it's really not about the money as much as it about having a tremendous amount of fun. And I just want my life to be super fun. You know, I don't like to be bored.
No, I love that.
And yeah.
So every new level has a new devil.
Yeah.
What's yours right now?
Wow. Another great question.
I got one more after it.
Definitely every step, you have a new challenge, a new devil. And what you did to conquer the first one doesn't help you with that next one. The current one that I'm dealing with is probably balancing like my work life with all this travel right now. I've always wanted a ton of freedom, and right now I have a shit ton of freedom. But I'm now seeing cons to that. And like I'm having to reel myself back in and say,
you said you don't like being bored. Do you find yourself bored with that freedom?
Definitely not.
Okay.
But I do find myself with all these ideas of like what I want to do and not being in a position like, I'm like, all right, well, if I want to do all these things, I'm going to need a bigger team, bigger system, more money. And then I start thinking, well, do you really want to do all these things? Like, what are things that really matter? And so I'm having to like reel myself back in on the ideas because like going free, having all this extra time to think and all this stuff, you have a lot of ideas. So now I'm at a point now where I'm like, chopping them off and kind of weeding them out to get back to like the core center of like, okay, what is still something that I can do that I'm not super stressed out at? Because now like too much freedom has also stressed me out a little bit. And
structure is a good thing.
Structure is a good thing.
Yeah.
Structure is a very good thing. And now I'm like, I've went completely no structure. I went from structure to completely no structure. Now I'm reeling myself back kind of towards the middle. So that is something that I didn't expect, but now that it's happened, I can totally see that was probably what was going to happen.
No, I get that. It's cool, man. One last one, and I'm sure Jonathan has a couple too, is Jeff Bezos, I think it's him, has a quote that he needs to make 3 big decisions a day. And that's really it. He boils his day down to 3 big decisions. So he's got his puttering around in the morning, but he saves all of his mental power for those 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
And that Warren Buffett needs to make 3 good big decisions a year.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you at on a daily or weekly or monthly basis in terms of big decisions and using your brain power toward those? I
would say that I'm kind of at that position, not on their level or anything like that, but just, I definitely. So Jeff Bezos calls it the middle manager role. So a middle manager's role is just to make 1 or 2 good, highly effective decisions for his team a day. And that's it. He or she's not really meant to kind of get in the weeds of all that. And so that's, as I said before, that's sort of where I am now. And I really enjoy that. That's a new role that I've recently kind of come into that I can only really do now because I have a solid team that can handle the day-to-day back and forth, the ruckus and, all the phone calls and emails and stuff. And I do enjoy that because I feel like the decisions, once I implement them, I can see over real time, like them actually being implemented and then the things that are happening because of it. And if something goes wrong, we can come back to the drawing board and reevaluate. But I wouldn't have been able to get to that position if it wasn't for our company growing to where it is now. So I would say I'm maybe like 1 or 2 decisions a day. Maybe.
And do you access any or outsource any PAs, or are you sending a lot? Yeah.
Virtual assistants, VAs?
Yeah, VAs, sorry.
So all of our, it's funny, our architects, engineers are from like Slovenia, Pakistan. Dude, like, I'll give you an example.
Do they all speak English?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they have an accent.
He goes, duh.
Yeah, of course, dude.
Sure.
They know, they're solid.
Rock on.
Yeah. Super impressive people. I had a girl like find all of our land. She found all of our, like, my partners couldn't believe it. They're like, George has this girl in the Philippines that keeps finding us these bomb lots, and he pays her like, she gets paid by the hour,
right?
But I pay her $20 an hour, but she keeps finding them within like, 10, 20 hours. So it's like $500 to find a lot that will do $20 million on.
Right.
And so our architects are from Slovenia. They speak perfect English, masters in architecture and all that stuff. And I'll get a full set of plans drawn with MEPs and all that for like $2,500. Whereas if I went somewhere locally, it'd be like $50,000 to $75,000.
Oh, yeah.
And the way they charge you here, like as architects, they're like, oh, well, they'll look at your project and they'll know how much it costs, and they'll do like 1 or 2% of it. That's just bullshit.
Right.
Just bullshit. You know what I mean?
Complete.
It's wild.
Yeah. How much can we make off of this and then still make some money?
That's the problem in the US. What we just said right here is the problem. Is that everyone thinks like that, and if you can go in a system and just chop that down, it takes work to chop it down and break the system down and cut out all the fat. But if you do that, you have a very lean, efficient system machine that just keeps pumping out golden goose eggs for you.
That's cool.
Cool. Well, dude, I actually have no questions. This has been amazing. You've got some really amazing insight. What would you say for our, parting words for our listeners and viewers?
Life is a struggle, if you're not where you want to be right now in life, and you're listening to this podcast to sort of kind of get some tidbits, just know that no one has the answers. I certainly don't. No one has it all together. I certainly don't. start somewhere. Even if you have to slowly walk, crawl, whatever you have to do, start somewhere. Find people that are doing something that you really can see yourself doing in the next year, 5, 10 years, and be there. You know, if you don't have money to invest, that's not an excuse. You know, be there, get coffee for them in the morning, take their kids, volunteer to take their kids to school, do their laundry, whatever it is, just to be around them. And the way you get ahead in life is by putting your 1%, you know, on top of a stack of their 99%. And you just need that 1% because it's not about the money in the beginning. It's about just rubbing hands and just being next to people that are successful. And it's like the roulette table. If you've ever, you know, that's the best way I could put it, but it's like a roulette table. And if somebody's hot at the table, you know, and you're not hot at the table, you just put a chip on every chip that they put on the numbers, and you just follow them. Because if they hit the last 6 hands, well, they're hot, you know, follow them. And if you're the one at the table who's hot, they should be following you. So, you know, let your ego aside and just, you know, if you really want it, do it for do it for yourself. And yeah, just know that it's a lifelong thing. You're going to need mentors. You're going to need peers, you know, people that direct you, people that can work with you. And really life is a people game. So make sure you have solid people around you, and you are also a solid person yourself.
That's awesome. I love that. Where can people follow you? What, you know, are you on all socials?
Not on all socials. I'm not really that active on anything besides Instagram.
Okay.
But you can find me at Just Do You, JUSTDOYU. So my last name, George U, it's spelled YU. So Just Do You. That's sort of an encouragement that everyone should just do them. Don't try to be anyone else. Just be yourself. And there's value in being yourself.
Love it. Love the message in the name. Good stuff, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on and dropping some bombs. It's your experience, and you're obviously a well-learned, well-knowledge person. So thank you for imparting that wisdom upon us and our audience. You guys know where to find us at HSTLUP, www.HSTLUP.com. Smash that like button, hit us with a follow, leave a comment. Follow George at Just Do You. You know where to follow us. Just said it. Until next time, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Clint.
Hustle up.
Thank you, guys.